All right, can everyone see my screen? Hopefully.
Yep, looks good.
Okay, good. Well,
Yes.
well, thank you for hanging in to the end here, and I'm going to give you a run through at least how Survey 123 works and how this process will work when you're filling out a new quarterly report. As Aaron has mentioned, you do have to authenticate into ArcGIS Online in one way or another to fill out a survey. And the reason for this is because we want you to go back and be able to edit your survey results later on. So in order to do that though, and by the way, when it is time for you to fill out your surveys, I will have a package of links and everything I'm demoing today condensed in a how-to document, so you know how to do this, everything we've discussed in this demo. So don't panic if you're not writing it all down or getting it all in. I'll make sure you have some instructions to do what you need to do. But in any case, let's talk about first, you need to authenticate to get into our survey, and you will be given a link, and that's in my URL bar. But at this point, it'll bring you to this screen. It's going to ask for authentication. And for most users with ArcGIS accounts, they will authenticate here. There's another place you can authenticate, and that's through Okta if you do not have an ArcGIS Online account. And my instructions I provide to you later will detail that. It's just a matter of clicking this button and then continuing through the authentication process. But in this case, we're going to pretend that I'm a specific user and I have a user called matt.treb, and I'm going to sign in. So the first thing you're going to see is kind of a quarterly grant reporting page, and it's going to detail a lot of the information that we've gone over today in regards to how to fill out your reporting quarterly reports. It does emphasize that this is not for final reports. This is for just quarterly reports, and that should be emphasized. There's more instruction about, again, kind of going over everything we discussed today and really giving you the opportunity to put a lot of information in for your reports that maybe Amplifund wouldn't have let you. And it does talk about our basic quarterly reporting timelines and when you would be submitting those reports. Again, there's a link to get you onto our grant page, and this is all related to your grant statement of work. So consider that when you're reporting these things, you're not putting in new stuff that wasn't in the statement of work, or you will talk about it if you have some problems with the statement of work, but that you should be following along with that document. And again, I will say this: if anyone sees something that doesn't make sense, if someone sees something they'd like to improve upon, feedback is welcome. This is our first try at this. We had one lucky person, Matt Reynolds, got to go through it first, but we appreciate all feedback. And if something doesn't, to your eyes, doesn't really make sense, please let us know. So I'm going to press next, and this is how I'm going to actually get into the survey. So the first option I have is to be able to select what grant project I want to, I'm reporting for. And at this point, you'll see that there's a drop down for, all the available projects you could report on. We could do some tricks to basically use your username to funnel this down to the appropriate URL, or use your URL to just fill this out for you. But sometimes agencies will have more than one grant. So it's better at this point for us just to give you a list and to pick who you want to report for. But today I'm going to pick on Pend Oreille County, and actually no, Pend Oreille County is complex, as Melinda said earlier. Let's go pick someone. Let's go pick Teton County. I'm from Teton County, so it's a dear spot to my heart. But if I click on Teton County, the option start there, and then I get to select which is my reporting period. Now, the reporting period we have in this drop down is not, they're based on fiscal periods, but they're not, we don't show the fiscal year, but you have to know about when you're going to start reporting. So in Danny's case, she's going to be reporting likely on 10/1, 2022 for her first fiscal year 23 report. So we'll pick that. And at this point,
actually, Matt, it would be July 1 through 10.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. And we can go back. Thank you. and now you can just pick in, type in all the information. We do say that we want this to be written, by the grantee. This is not for contractors to be filling out, but you can state your role with the project. I am the. Now you do get some options in these questions. You'll notice every question that's required has a little red asterisk by it, and that means that if you do forget to fill that out, it's going to nag you to fill it out later on. So it will go through that. There are questions, branching questions, like are there expected changes to project manager roles or other personnel? And if you don't have any, you don't have to put anything. You can go no. But if you say yes, another box may show up and says that please detail those problems. So you could say maybe big changes at city, something like that. You can go obviously into more depth, but you have the ability to write a lot if you want. You have roughly 2,000 characters to put something in that box.
I'd just like to jump in here real quick, Matt.
Sure.
So this is for these cases when we have personnel changes, and we've seen a lot. We would like you to identify those within this document, but also if there are some big changes that have happened with your project management, with your project managers or your consultant or some partners, we ask that you reach out directly to your defined project manager in a call or an email to let them know that these big changes have occurred. We've seen a lot in the past. We've seen consultants change in projects. We've seen, unfortunately, deaths. We've seen people leave jobs. And so we know that it happens, and this is your opportunity to put that into this report. Thanks, Matt.
No problem, Aaron. And yes, so there's, you have a lot of opportunity to put that information in, and it is important for us to understand it. Again, now you get a box where you can put a percent of your project completion. This is an estimate, this isn't rocket science, but close counts here. And you are defined somewhere between 0 and 100. If you're giving 110% completion, you're not going to be allowed to do so. So let's say in this case, maybe you're only 5% down the line. Now, this box is very important, the project status and achievements. And this is really where you're going to be showcasing the work in your grant and what's going on. We give you 2,000 characters to do this, but if you can't do it here, there is a spot at the base of this page where you can upload a document. And we ask if you do that, please put your document, your project name, who you are, what your relationship is to the project, and a date and all the reports that you're submitting. Just don't give us just a text file with hardly anything in it. That would be helpful for us to read. But this is really important, and we ask that you don't put elaborate here. This is more than this is not just a couple sentences. This is please tell us what's happening, and this is a great way to communicate how things are going for you. So don't do what I'm doing.
Matt, if I could just interrupt, this is again, you can cut and paste into here. Is that correct?
Exactly. So yes, you can formulate this answer someplace else and copy and paste it right into here. You'll be able to pull it in. Again, if you're over 2,000 characters though, you're going to get a limitation. So if you do blow that up, you could write, hey, or something like that. You do not have to, you just kind of emphasize you did attach it, but it's an attachment later on. So,
I was just going to say, so if you've written, this is where I wanted to just reemphasize to that if you keep those records, if you write down your weekly successes, this task then becomes a much easier process.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that we did it. I think it's stated in the top that we do, because things happen. We do recommend that you keep this in a separate document while you're writing it out, just in case you lose your work.
Absolutely, it's not a bad idea. This is a really important box, anyways. This is probably one of the more important questions in this whole survey. So maybe I should make it a special color, but in any case, it's yes. Feel free to keep it in another document and share with it as you will. If you do attach a separate document though, please put all your grant information on there, who's reporting it, et cetera, so we can know later on. This question's kind of more than kind of important. It is important. Have any issues been identified in meeting the goals and objectives as defined in the scope of work? And so, hopefully you don't have to answer this yet. No, you can say no, but if you do have to answer it, you get an opportunity to state what those problems are. And again, you can write that in another document and attach it at the end. I think that Aaron and you would agree with this, that if you've reached this point, if you're finding major some problems you're having, you really need to be communicating that with either your MSL project manager or with Aaron. This shouldn't be the first time we hear about it, although it's a great time to really record what's happening at this moment. But this is kind of a, you're documenting what's going on, but please reach out to us, and we're going to be reaching out to you to see how you're doing with this. But this shouldn't be a giant surprise for any of us, but it's a way to keep track of what's going on. Anticipated project completion date. So this is something where obviously you should be following your statement of work, and we have some when if you need an extension, we talk about that a little bit later in the survey, but this should be something that is very close to when you anticipated this work being done. And Danny, I'm just going to pick something spitball out of here because I'm not looking at your grant, but I'm just going to go away. I'm just going to say, hey, let's go April 28th.
Yeah, I guess the anticipated project completion date, that's documented and that's set in each of your statements of work. But the reason why we want to put it here is that it's just kind of to notify us if you're thinking you could be late, or if you're thinking that you're going to be early, and just to keep that in mind. And if you're going to be early, usually there's a reason. We want to know why. That's why we have this summary section next. And then also, if you think you're going to be late, we should start talking about it soon. Typically, project, unless there's like a big catastrophe that might happen, which again can happen, typically we don't ask for you to start reporting if you're going to be late till and need an extension to the third quarter. So that's when we'd ask you to start thinking about that. But it's just in there for us to make sure things are on track, and just to continue and keep that fresh in your minds.
I did see a question. Danny asked, will we have to do a completion date at each time we do a quarterly report? And I think the answer is yes.
Yep.
We kind of
yep. It doesn't matter if it changes. It's just to basically continue to report to us. The first quarter might have gone really smoothly. You don't anticipate ending early. The second quarter went fantastic. You had a bunch of time on your hands. You want to end early, and maybe the third quarter is like, wait a minute, we've found some major issues. So it's just to keep that that in mind.
So in line with that, if you happen to be in the final quarter of your grant period, you may find that you need an extension for whatever reason that might be. These are exceptions, not the rules, but this is a way to start. Again, you should be communicating this. None of this should be a giant surprise, but this is your way of communicating this particular problem. And if you do say yes, if you do find yourself needing that grant extension, this is where you do need to upload an extension request letter, and it has to be on your organizational letterhead and an explanation of why you're unable to meet the project within the grant year, new proposed dates for the completion of your goals, objectives, and tasks as defined in the statement of work, and an explanation how this is going to help you meet this timeline, and of course a new proposed project completion date. And this is where you have an opportunity to select a file and you can load it in there. But this is very important, and obviously this will be your way of communicating that that extension request to the MSL. I'm going to say,
John,
go ahead.
Can you please show them how to select the file?
Absolutely. So this is pretty easy. You can just press select file. And at this point, you can grab, this takes any kind of file, although I think the most popular documents are going to be PDFs and Word docs, but I could just take a file, just open it, and then it adds it right into the form, and it's there. You could also drag and drop. I'm feeling a little bit, I'm in a double screen situation that might be a little harder at this moment, but it's really as easy as doing that, and you can upload that document.
And then if you make a mistake, looks like there's a button right there.
Yeah, if you don't like this, say, oh, this is the wrong document, you can delete it and then select another document. So,
and then, yeah, could you just scroll back up a little to the first question? So you're going to have to pay attention to which quarter of the grant, your period, which grant. We don't say the third quarter because in some cases you might be in an extension already. And so that's why just make sure you understand which quarter you are in, because you could be in a 6th quarter or an 8th quarter, depending upon your situation.
All right. In line with statement of work issues, are there deviations from the project schedule as defined in the scope of work? And this could be, let's say you were anticipating doing field collection in the fall, but maybe there's a natural hazard issue, flooding, or perhaps you have an equipment failure, whatever, personnel issues, whatever that might have been. And you're going to be collecting your GPS data, your field data, maybe in early spring of after winter. And this is where you could put that information into. Aaron, I guess this is, again, one of those things where, this should be shared with the project manager and Aaron. If you have some pretty heavy stuff going on, if you're kind of noodling around with small adjustments, I think this is a good place to put that information. But large adjustments really have to be, those are changes to the statement of work, and you may need a contract amendment. And at the very end, as promised, here's the general document upload. So this is where you can put extra stuff in. You can put maps, images, project summaries, etc. This will take any sort of document you prefer to put in here. You can put in several files if you want. I'm just going to keep on opening files, but you could put a lot of stuff in here if you wish. And this is a good place to do that. Now, what we don't want to have put here though are deliverables, GIS data deliverables. If we have a separate process for those, and that'll come at the end of your project, and the MSL will help you with that process. But this is not where you deliver GIS data. Aaron, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah. So what is that little A thing next to the trash can?
It allows you to, so you could change this. You could change this name of this document when it uploads to something else. Like if you had a name for a document and you wanted to change it on the fly as opposed to renaming your document, you could do it that way. It's just an easy way to be more verbose. If you're like me, I kind of like to name my documents what I'm going to be sending them. But if you really want to make an adjustment, or maybe even have a document you want to add a little bit of extra information, maybe today's date, something like that, for whatever reason, you do have the ability to do that. So
awesome. And then just to clarify, the number of characters in each box are 2,000, and that is that's approximately probably about a half a page of writing, just so everyone knows. I know in Amplifon, and I do believe in web grants, it was character driven as well, not word driven. So right. That's just something for you all to know. And then the additional project comments or concerns, if you find something like you want to talk about something, or you want to put some sort of additional information that you don't think is appropriate in some of the other boxes, please feel free. It's kind of like our catch-all for additional comments when it comes to the project itself. And then just a clarification, we don't require an amendment to change a project schedule. So we just want you to report deviations from your project schedule when you're doing your quarterly reporting. Okay, maybe we should pause. Anybody have any questions?
See, Danny's got one. Do we put our reimbursement request or invoices in the upload at the
No,
end?
you do not. So this is only for quarterly reporting. This is not for reimbursement requests and invoicing. We ask that you submit those via email at this point.
And we're
Aaron, just to add on to that, I think those should probably be submitted to the designated project manager. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's what we had identified earlier. Yep. Yes, Gayla, good question. It will be the same link each quarter sent to every project manager. So it doesn't matter what quarter you're reporting or what project year. So we have a FY 2021 extension, we have 2022 extensions, and we're starting 2023. Everyone is reporting to the same link.
That's right, and that's the intention. We're trying to make this somewhat easy that you're just using this single reporting tool as opposed to learning a new one. So, or having to get a separate new link for everything.
Okay, why don't you go ahead and advance forward to the next section, which will be reporting on the spending, the financial reporting.
Yeah. So this is where you're going to be putting the nuts and bolts of your financial reporting, and the questions we ask here, we can't really use a matrix form, but we can use a line by line form and a branching method of figuring out what you want to report. Aaron might want to go over this part a bit when we talk about this is and for the total spending up to the end of the quarter you're reporting on as answered in the report period. So that first question, that report period, and by the way, I'm on this page. If I made a mistake, I can go back to the first page and make an adjustment here to see what I put down. Which period am I recording on? Okay, reporting on. So you can see when that is, and then go back forward again. So you haven't submitted it yet. You have all the ability to go back and edit answers if you need to. So that said, another emphasis here is to say that this reporting is based on approved. Oh, I see we have a little typo here we have to adjust, but it's based on approved budget categories and amounts per category. So what that really means is that this isn't for, I have extra stuff, I'm just going to put it in here. Obviously, that's not in your statement of work and what's been approved. So that has to, you'll need a contract adjustment if a contract amendment, excuse me, if you have changes like that. Aaron, is there anything else you want to emphasize?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So the first question is really a general. Do you have any comments or concerns about your project budget? And again, we emphasize that these changes must be approved by the MSL. But if you do have those changes, you're able again to write in your project budget summary what those concerns may or may not be. Again, if you have something you would really rather submit as a Word doc or whatever, you can easily go back to the first page. You could go back, just go back and attach it right here and put it as in the general document upload. Of course, it would be very nice if you would also put, please see give us an indicator that you did put this information in the as an attachment. So that's an opportunity to talk about those concerns. Now we're going to get into the real nuts and bolts of entering in your category costs. So the first category cost we have, and if you think about perhaps your statement of work matrix of category cost and the different types of costs, this is where you can say, hey, did you have personnel or fringe benefit cost to report? And if you say yes, then you suddenly get a branching question comes out and lets you put in what all the costs may or may not have been for either your MLIA share, your grantee cash, or your grantee in-kind costs for those personnel costs, or for your fringe benefit costs. So here's something that's kind of interesting. So let's say I put in 500 and I put in 250. And one thing you'll see is that these are all defaulted to 0. So if you don't have anything to report, don't worry about it. Just leave it alone. But it will give you, and this is a little bit gray. We may have to adjust this, but it does give you an amount to say that, hey, these are your total personnel costs with all these classifications of these costs. So you have an idea of at least some addition that's going on as you're marching through the form. Let's say you have no fringe costs, so you can leave those as 0, and those will come up as 0. Again, you're going to travel costs. You're going through each one of these categories, and maybe you do have travel costs, and this is where you put in a few costs, and then I'm just randomly putting in numbers, obviously, but again, the summation of all those travel costs will show up, and this goes the same way through equipment costs. I'm not going to put any in, but you get the idea. Supplies cost, same thing, and then contractual cost, same deal there too. So you have the ability to put in all those, either cash, in kind, or MLIA share costs in each one of these categories. Finally, the catch-all other. So one thing that does happen at the bottom of this form is we do calculate all these total costs for you. We get the total cost for everything that's in each one of these categories. And to say that you get at least a truth check to see exactly what those automatic costs are. You can't edit these. That's the calculated cost, and then the grand total cost. And checking through that, I mean, one thing I'm going to show you here when we get done is how you can make a report that shows this in maybe a slightly better format, and how to edit. And we haven't submitted the survey yet, right? Any of these responses can be adjusted if you felt like doing so. But if you felt confident that everything you reported here is the way you want to report it, you can go ahead and hit the submit button. But before I do, Erin, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so when you're reporting, we understand things happen, and perhaps you get behind in your project reports. It's important, so we are asking for your spending to date and your project reporting to date. And so if you're keeping track of all of your work, and let's say you missed a quarterly report, and you're coming up due on a second, what we would like you to do is go back and backfill and fill out that missing quarterly report. But we want you to report as if you were reporting on time. And so we want project status to that point, and everything else that we've asked in the first page of, or second page of questions. Same with spending. So let's say you have spent 10,000 to date. In the first quarter, you spent 3,000, then in the second quarter you've spent 7. We want you to populate this report as though you were reporting in for that specific time frame. So we're always going to be asking you for information to date, and this is going to drive the reporting that I do to my council and to my commission, and hopefully you'll be able to see it in the future in other types of reports, just general reports about the MLIA program itself. And so it's important that we try to get these reports on time, and then if you do miss one, that you're reporting as if you were traveling back in time and and you were at that correct date. So it's important to the date of the end of that report period. And then Matt's going to show you magic of submitting a report, and then let's say you make a mistake and you want to go back and edit something. You have the ability to do that. So go ahead.
Okay, so let's say we like what we've done. We're going to submit, and you just press the big blue submit button, and you should get a lovely page that says, all right. Great. Now you get a page that says thank you, and you get an option to submit another report or another response. Most of you won't have to do that, but maybe you have multiple grants you're reporting on. You may want to go back and make another response. But in that case, we're more or less done with the response portion of this particular grant. But let's go back in time. Let's say that, oh my gosh, you wake up in the middle of the night and you remember you didn't put a cost in that you wanted to, or you had to make an adjustment. Well, you have the ability to do that. And one thing I didn't talk about either is one thing you notice is that you can tell who you're signed in as in the ArcGIS online environment by, this happens to be this user I've set up here, but this is all related to your particular user. So let's go into some of the data tools to let you go back into your survey and figure out how to adjust something if you need to. So actually, this is a link that will be provided to you that will basically give you a listing of everything that you have submitted so far as a survey response. And as my user, I have two. Basically, I did kind of a dummy Teton County grant response earlier, a report earlier, but you can see I have two records that I have the ability to edit. You'll see there's a form view that's always clicked on, and this kind of, keep in mind, this runs in more or less a kind of a tabular form, and it looks a little bit clunky. And one thing that might happen for some of you is you'll see a map that'll show up too. We don't gather any map data. We were contemplating doing that, but we don't really use it. So you could actually pull that up and kind of get that out of the way, because you're really not going to be interacting with the map here. But what you will be interacting with are survey responses. So let's say you can see that the last survey when I was pretending to be Teton County, was this survey that I reported for this year's financial quarter, or excuse me, yeah, I guess now we're going to be we're in July, but what you can do is just click on that record and you'll see that form pop up on this side. Well, that looks kind of small, and I know I want to edit some of this stuff. And to be able to do that, you click on a pencil icon, and it does happily, if you float over any of the icons, it tells you what it's going to do. Maybe I want to edit this record. So if I click to edit that record, you can see the survey sits there and grinds away on it for a moment. But then that survey response comes up. Well, that's kind of small. I wish this would be a little bigger. You have the ability to expand this, not all the way. I find it to be somewhat annoying. I wish it would be the same width as the response, but this is as good as our GIS Online gives us. But you have the ability now to go through any of those responses and to change something. So maybe you had something extra to put in the project management and personal changes. Obviously you want to be more verbose than that, but you could type in something else. Let's say you wanted to go to, you had a financial area that you wanted to re-add something. Maybe you did actually have some travel costs, or excuse me, some equipment costs or supply costs. I had no supply costs. We'll do supply costs. We'll say yes. And then suddenly you can say, all right, we supplied $100 worth of supplies. And when you do that, of course, you haven't submitted anything. You're just in editing mode at this point. But you have the ability to, again, just hit the submit button. And it gives you that little screen that says, hey, I made a change. And for proof of concept, you can always just look at your response as well. You could see that, you want to be clicking on the record that was adjusted, which was, since I have two records in here, you want to make sure which record you click on the appropriate record. But you could also keep on looking around and seeing maybe the changes you had made in here from the previous editing session. And I think I might have screwed up. I think I was probably editing let's see what record I was editing. It does get, most of you will only have one record to edit. And I will emphasize this, and I think we need to discuss this at the MSL, but there will be a period of time where you probably will have an opportunity to edit your responses. But once your response is finalized, we are going to put a marker on there to say that it's final, and you won't see it in your list of surveys you can edit. Let's see what's going on here. There we go. Sometimes a browser refresh is all that you need to do. Yeah, and I see, and I did edit a previous survey, but anyways, it's a good lesson here. Make sure if you have multiple surveys, you click on the survey in which you want to do an edit on. The other thing you can do here, which is kind of cool, is you can also make a report, which we can generate on our side, but perhaps you want to have a report to print this for yourself. There's a couple different ways to do this. There is a print button. I kind of find when you do print, it turns it into a format that it's okay. It has your raw output, and if that's what you want, you can definitely do that. It's not a bad thing to do. But we do have the ability that if you want to see this particular report in a better form, we have a report button. If you do press the report button, you see an option for all the records in the table or selected records. And I suggest you use a selected record. And there will be a template available to you at this point. There's only one template. We're calling it this, but I'll explain what there should be only one template available for you when you are trying to create a template. But in this case, you have the ability to change the template name. It gives it kind of a long name, but maybe I want to call it something like that. It can save it into your ArcGIS Online root folder environment if you want. That's a place that you can store an ArcGIS Online. You do not have to do that. You can tell it not to save if you don't really want it to be saving in your data. That's definitely an option that's available to you. And one thing you can do is you have the ability at that point to export it either as a Word doc or as a PDF. I'm going to choose a PDF. And you have a couple options. You can either generate a report or just do a sample report. And I'm just going to do a sample report just to kind of see what this looks like. It will be almost exactly what's generated as a PDF, but it's just a nice quick way to see what this thing is making. So this is the, as you can see, it's got the sample report on it, but these are all your answers. It gives you an idea of, this is your ArcGIS Online user, by the way, the time you submitted it, and that submission time may be the time you also edited that record. So that could be after the fact. But all these pieces and parts that you put into the survey will show up here. It will give a listing of data you may have added as attachments. It'll tell you what the name of the document is and how big it was. And you have the ability to see at the very end, all those things you entered in earlier as costs are now in a better form where you could really see what's happening and kind of look this over and see if there's any mistakes or something you'd like to adjust. We can go over this report and make a better report too. If there's something else you'd like to see, we can definitely talk about getting the report constructed so it makes something that you'd rather have available. So that was just a sample report, but if I really want to make a report, I can just hit the generate button, and it has to create a task to do this. And it's definitely thinking about it. So once the hourglass goes away, you can see the time in which I'm starting it. That report should be ready for me to download. So I got a pop-up warning saying it was ready, but here it is. This is the production report. And this is something you could keep for your records or provide it to whomever else. Again, we're going to be creating this on our side, but maybe it's something you want to do for yourself.
So Matt, this is you as a grantee, not as an admin. So grantees can generate these reports.
That's right. That's right. Grantees can generate these reports. So I'm logged in right now. I'm not an administrator. I'm actually in a pretty low level account that I'm not an administrator to this system, so I'm pretending to be a grantee that's logged in. So
awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that pretty much we need to leave room for discussion.
Yep.
So I think that summarizes the project, or excuse me, the reporting. Like Matt had said, for FY2023, I know you're probably gonna this might be a little foggy in October when things are going to be due for your first quarterly report. So we'll send out a link to this recording, and then also documentation on how to fill out one of these reports. And then also we will make ourselves available if you're having issues or if you need a little assistance. before then, we'll be working to make sure everyone has an account and can access the survey. And then folks who are currently in an extended grant, we'll be working with you over the next 2 weeks to make sure that you get access. We'll be prioritizing you to make sure you have access and you are able to go in and get these reports completed. But Janet, I know you wanted to open it up for discussion. So I can't remember. We might have one slide left or two.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I think this is a good time for discussion. I know there's been a lot of chats, so we might want to make sure that people have a chance to ask all their questions. I think we were, let me just see here. I don't think I have the share screen, do I?
I see one question from Danny asking
Okay.
if the edits are available up to the end of the project. And I guess
I did answer Danny. Sorry, I thought that was a direct message to me. So just so everyone knows, right now we plan on officially closing reports. That is, I guess, up. If some edit needs to be made, we can work individually with each grantee. But at some point we will close reports, but we'll give folks plenty of time to review.
So no, that was the last slide. So you know, any questions? I think it sounds like the reporting system is going to be a little easier than that AccuFund one for everyone. But this is a good chance to do that communication that we talked about, to be really seek out help from Matt and all on making sure you can submit these correctly. And I still advocate, even though you've got, you know, Aaron talked about coming back and doing